There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover tomorrow. Just you wait and see. There'll be love and laughter and peace ever after tomorrow, when the world is free. The shepherd will tend his sheep, the valley will bloom again, and Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover tomorrow. Just you wait and see. The shepherd will tend his sheep, the valley will bloom again, and Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover tomorrow. Just you wait and see.
Listening to Surrey's radio station.
In Camberley, Guildford and Caterham.
On 104 and 104.6 FM, this is BBC Surrey.
Good luck.
8 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's turn our attention to a funeral which is taking place for Surrey's last Japanese prisoner of war, who's died at the incredible age of 103.
It's Chief Petty Officer Walter Ernest Munn, who joined the Royal Navy aged 14, who then went on to fight in the Second World War. His daughter, Debbie Hornblow, told me about his life and started by talking about how her father's ship was attacked during the war.
Almost as soon as war was announced with Japan, a Japanese ship pulled up alongside HMS Petrel and demanded that she be allowed to go onto the ship. But the Captain Polkinghorne, he would not allow the Japanese to go on board because of the intelligence that was on there. And he refused. He said, "No, you're not coming onto my boat." In fact, he said, "Get off my bloody boat," was his words, as I understand. And the Japanese then fired immediately. And my father actually was blown out of the ship into the river. There was only about a dozen of them on the boat, and 5 of them were killed. Not all of them were picked up as they went ashore, but Dad was one, the captain was one, and Dad then was imprisoned in Japanese prison camp in Osaka, south of Japan, until 18 months after the end of the war, and he was repatriated via the US after the war. And he ended up at the NATO base Portland in Dorset when he was coming out of the Navy, and went straight to the Ministry of Defence and completed 50 years Crown service, basically, by the time he retired. Quite an amazing life. I was in contact with HMS Ganges last week to tell them that Dad had died, and bless them, they have put him on their roll of honour at their museum, and they are sending a standard bearer to the funeral, and they've also sent me an old trainee boy's cap and tally to go on to Dad's coffin, and we also have a Burma Star representative coming along.
Oh, how special! So he was the last, or Surrey's last Japanese prisoner of war.
He was the UK's oldest survivor, naval survivor, Japanese prisoner of war. Yeah.
And did he talk much about those times?
No, very, very little. And my 2 boys, many, many times, used to say, "Oh, we want to take a recording of Grandad," because he didn't really want to remember it. But when I was 8, in 1960, there was a book published, and I can remember a chap called Desmond Wetton, who was also a part of the crew on HMS Petrel. He wrote a book called The Lonely Battle, and his name is Desmond Wetton. You can still get copies of it, and it is the story of HMS Petrel and its crew. So you can learn a lot from that. And I was actually at a military meeting only yesterday, and somebody said, "Look, I've just bought your dad's book." It's not my dad's book, but there's quite a lot about Dad in there, and quite a lot of pictures. So we've managed to glean a lot of what went on. Dad sometimes would say, if I laid down and went to sleep when I was in that prison camp, I was fine, I'd never wake up again. Odd things you get from him. And he wasn't too fond of the Japanese, I have to say, but yeah, I suppose that goes with the territory. And the other thing that we noticed, sometimes if he stayed with us, he would still have nightmares, and he had those right up to the very end. And he was still dreaming about being in Japan right up until the day he died.
Oh, it's astonishing, isn't it? And to you, he's I don't mean just Dad, but he's Dad. Does hearing these stories kind of change the way you think of him at all?
Yeah, obviously I'm extremely proud of him, and it's gone through the family to my 2 boys. They are as well, and as far as they're concerned, because he lived to 103. The fact of the life that he had, it's amazing he lived to that age. But to my boys, he was always there. As far as they were concerned, Grandad was always there. And so it's really affected them, his passing. But they are playing a part in the funeral tomorrow, because Stuart, my eldest son, sings a lot, and so he's going to be singing in the chapel. And the youngest son is going to be reading out the naval prayer. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to be too emotional to be able to stand up and say anything about Dad. But if I can write something, if I can do something like I'm doing now, then I'm hoping that the pride that I have for him comes across.
Well, it has done.
Hasn't it just?
I tell you, Debbie doesn't need to do anything more. Debbie Hornblow there, whose father, Chief Petty Officer Walter Ernest Munn, joined the Royal Navy, age 14, going on to fight in the Second World War. Surrey's last Japanese prisoner
the
of war.
UK, she corrected me, the UK's last.
Died at 103. We salute his service. Absolutely amazing. They were a different generation, different people. It's BBC Surrey, just ahead of 8 o'clock.
Abide with me, fast falls the eventide, the darkness deepens, Lord, with me abide, when other helpers fail and comforts flee. Help of the helpless, oh, abide with me. Hold thou thy cross before my closing eyes. Shine through the room and point me to the skies. Heaven's morning breaks and earth's vain shadows flee. In life, in death, O Lord, abide with me. In life, in death, O Lord, abide with me.
It's lovely to see you all here. A very warm welcome as we seek to give honour to our beloved Ernie. It says on the front of your order of service that we're here to celebrate the life of Ernie. And I hope and pray that as we allow the memories to flow, as it were, the times that we shared together, love given, love received, laughter and tears. As we allow those memories to flow, I hope and I know that there will be much that we can give thanks for and to celebrate. Not least, of course, for the sheer privilege that each one of us has had in being able to share our life with that of Ernie. Yes? I'm a Christian minister, so I'm going to begin with some words of Jesus. Jesus says this: I am the resurrection and I am the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Gracious God, we come today to remember Ernie and to give thanks for the gift of his life, for those years we shared with him. We thank you that he is at rest in your loving care, and we trust in your promise of life without end. Amen. Amen. We're going to sing a hymn, an old gospel hymn, which speaks to us of the
stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. How I love that old cross, where the dearest and best for a world of lost sinners was slain. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown.
Ernie Take Two. Real name, or full name, Walter Ernest Munn, but everybody knew his Ernie. I've known him since 1970 when I left Derby. That's what, 48 years. As you probably read in the order of service, born on the 22nd of December 1914, which was honestly years ago. This is well old age of 103, but the fact that he lived for such a long age, I suppose, was remarkable in itself, but the extraordinary life he led. So many ways, not least being the only surviving naval Japanese prisoner of war until the 20th of February. His life is quite remarkable in the sense of his mother left home when he was less than 2 years old. He was the youngest of three. His home life was not a happy one, and he left at 14 selling lives to join the Navy on HMS Ganges in Shotley near Harwich in Suffolk. Over the ensuing 25 years, he graduated as Fleet Chief Petty Officer, the highest non-commissioned Navy rank. Does the Navy, I would say, once a sailor, always a sailor. And I follow up to the other armed forces we have here today. But he would not remind others that the Navy is the senior service. This was mostly his Jessie, his wife, because she came from an army family. Sadly, she passed away in 1999. Getting down to his life, his career was not plain sailing, and I apologise for the phone. As some of you may know, not only was the Japanese prisoner of war for nearly 4 years, his first state of conflict began with the British involvement in the Spanish Civil War in the late 30s. Then during 1940 and 41, the early years of the war against the Germans, against Hitler, he survived being sunk in ships not once but twice, once while serving in submarines. In 1941 he was posted to Shanghai to serve on HMS Petrel, which was a floating spy station in the Yangtze, providing intelligence on the Japanese army occupation in China. And it seems an awful irony that that post was deemed to be some sort of respite from the earlier traumas. We were not at war with Japan at the time, and so therefore the job he was given was espionage, which he found rather boring, but he still had one or two tricks up his sleeve, one or two escapades. Was taking down the German flag from the German embassy in Shanghai, obviously the chagrin of one or two others. And on another occasion, he actually filled up there was a sailing warship, a Lepanto, in the Shanghai. He went up the river, filled up the rubber glove with blew up the rubber glove, tied it to the neck, threw it into the water, and watched it drift downstream. And the Italians, on seeing it, thought it was a mine and decided to abandon the ship. And he got court-martialed for that one. Anyway, as we all know, on the 8th of December 41, Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. Within 10 minutes, the Japanese warship came alongside the Petrel and demanded immediate surrender, which was rejected. And I'll quote from a couple of notes, I've written it down, from the Daily Express, which we found in Ernie's belongings when we were doing things afterwards. The incident itself and the captain's actual response, which was Hiroshima, which some survivors recall as get off my bloody ship. I think Ernie actually said it was rather stronger than that. Anyway, I'll carry on with the Japanese officer left the British vessel. A hail of gunfire was directed at the Petrel from the Japanese flotilla and onshore artillery. The Petrel fired back, activated her scuttling charges, and soon sank. 6 men died, and the badly wounded survivors were taken prisoner. The defiance of the Petrel impressed both the Japanese and the Chinese, civilian Chinese, who took the water to help rescue the survivors, which Ernie won. The consequence of refusing to render against overwhelming odds meant the Japanese did not get access to the codes, secret information and intelligence on the ship, which would have put more lives at risk, but also ensured that they did not get the Petrel as a prize of war. Other than to say the crew supported the captain's response, Ernie never spoke at this time. I believe in respect of his companions who did not survive. The captain and the survivors of the DSC was after the war for his actions. That Ernie survived was actually extraordinary, as Desmond Wetton's book, Lonely Battle, explains he was blown out of the ship by an explosion and passed through a hole in the side of the ship, created by an area of shell. How's that for escaping death by injury, he spent the next 3 years and 8 months as a Japanese POW, where his weight dropped to below 6 stone. After the war, he then spent 6 months in rehabilitation, courtesy of the American Medical Corps, eventually being repatriated in the spring of 1946. There's one benefit of this Japanese prisoner of war occupation: he can insult Japanese in their own language. On return, he picked up his earlier relationship with Jessie, who's become his wife in 1948. They had a daughter, Debbie, in the early 50s. Ernie then retired from active service in 1954. He joined as a civilian support worker and worked at the Admiralty Underwater Weapons Establishment at Portland until he finally retired as he got it after 50 years crown service in 1979. He and Jessie moved to working in 1987, primarily to be near their daughter and 2 grandsons at that time, Peter and Stuart, because of 1 or 2 more expeditions at family since. During the period, despite what happened to him, he never had a bad word to say about the Navy. Locally, he was well known for his routines, cheerful, slightly dressed. By the Clayton's morning paper and the Sunday lunchtime drink, people remarked you could set your watch by him. In 2012, he had a fall resulting in having to have hip replaced at the ripe old age of 96. Tough doesn't even begin to describe his inner strength. Indeed, in the last few days whilst in St. Peter's, when he knew he was nearing the end, the doctors told him, Ernie, you must have tried everything otherwise. He did not finish. Ernie interrupted, or else I'll fuck up. The ward was in that. I mean, the doctor had no problems with that. He's never lost his wicked sense of humour. Now, as we added also, in the last few days, and against the rules, he was taken on a sip of whiskey, evidently fight to the end. It is therefore with pride I salute a man who cheated death so many times. He did not expect his 30th birthday, but was blessed not only with a wife and daughter, 2 grandchildren, and to date 5 grandchildren. He richly deserves that legacy. A few days before he passed away, and I've said this to everyone here, Ernie asked me to ensure that all those attending students should be asked back to the wake and have a drink on him at the Westwall Club, for those who don't know. A large member of the club is in the honour of celebrating his 100th birthday there. Everyone is welcome. There's also a donation box here in the chapel for the Cook Response Memorial Woodland, my wife's personal charity, and of course Paul. Many of you know that Debbie is a trustee of the QMRW, which is a registered charity fund to assist ex-servicemen, and we have one to do here today. Before on to good time. The chairman, fellow trustees, David and Bosun's whistleblower all ex-Queensland, and Debbie would like to thank them for their support. Finally, thank you for taking the trouble to pay your respects. I know many of you will find them to be sadly missed. So all I have to say is, rest in peace, Sarah. Made from the same power.
Sailor's prayer. For fair winds and a following sea, the smell of salt air, salt in the air, the feel of their skin as it's touched by the spray, an albatross soaring above, dolphins in the ship's wake that flow, to witness the work of the art of only God can create, the sunset at the end of the day, as a million stars in the sky, safe anchorage in the oil's league. And the time comes to die, as us for all it must, to awake in sailor's heaven when nothing ever rusts. And always there will be fair winds and a following sea.
It's unfortunate time, 15 years ago, perhaps a bit more, I've not really spoken to my mum and dad about because he lost his wife and my grandma. And that point, our relationship changed. We talked a lot differently. I was the only one at the house at the time when it happened. I had to break the news to my mum and dad. And, in a good way, our relationship became very much and on the level rather than being a granddad and a grandson. We talked about lots of things. His really sense of humour, which actually wound me up a fair bit because he did it deliberately. It was him knowing that I was getting into country music like Johnny Cash. And every time I'd mention a Johnny Cash song, he would say, "Oh yeah, I do like that Kenny Rogers." Every time I mention a Neil Diamond song, perhaps, he goes, "Oh, didn't Johnny Cash do that?" No, he didn't. Quite deliberately, we'd wind us up and do things like that. But, my name's surname is Stuart, which is where I've ended up my name from. And this is actually my granddad's tie, and this is the Stuart group that's on here. I've just decided to wear a pattern tie today. This is his tie as well. A real character. Dad mentioned that he did happen to like a bit of whiskey, and they nipped him in a nip of whiskey into the church. What hasn't been said, and I think he won't mind me telling you, is I used to go around visiting once a week or so, and he helped himself out. We're moving house and things like that. It's very hard these days to get a mortgage, and he'd give myself and my brother a leg up. So, as a bit of by way of a thank you, I'll turn up there with a bottle of whiskey when I go around and see him. We were sat down talking one day, with my dad and my brother and myself. Granddad's flat was on the side of their house, and sat there talking, we've been visiting. And I said, yeah, so I'll take him over a bottle of whiskey, perhaps once a week, once every 10 days, something like that, just as by way of a thank you because he fancies nip. And Dad looks up and he says, well, I do his shopping once a week. And I give him a bottle of whiskey. So like, crumbs. I said, well, I get him one of the Tesco's ones because they're a bit cheaper, they do a litre and a half. And he goes, so do I. We both looked at Peter because he's just sat there dumbfounded. He goes, well, actually, I pop in every so often as well, probably once a week, once every 10 days, and I bring him a bottle of whiskey. So I've come to the conclusion, if you want to live to 103, 4 litres of whiskey a week, it's going to cost me. Grandad was a big fan of Vera Lynn, and I'm a big fan of Johnny Cash, and it just so happens that Johnny Cash covered a Vera Lynn song. There is some words in there if you do fancy joining in the chorus.
We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. He's smiling through, just like we used to do. The blue skies are blue every day. Say hello to folks that I know. Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know they see me go out singing in this song. We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when. Well, I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
you like these pictures? Just going to have a moment of reflection. With thanks for Ernie, the memories of time shared.
It won't be a stylish marriage. I can't afford a carriage, but you'll sleep on the seat of a bicycle built for two. Oh, Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer due. I'm half crazy over the love of you. You want me a stylish marriage. I can't afford a carriage, but you'll sleep on the seat of a bicycle built for two. The Bowery, the Bowery, they ring when they do, ring the Bowery, the Bowery.
I stated it not because I didn't like your singing or anything like that. Simply it's part of a compendium of songs. Actually, I think it was Bing Crosby I got from memory. It's time for the men to say farewell to her, so let's stand. So we commend our beloved Ernie to the mercy of God, our Maker and our Redeemer. Now, therefore, Ernie, we entrust you into the mercy and the love of God. We entrust you into the care and the salvation of God. And in the name of Jesus Christ, who died and rose again, we bless you.
say then.
I don't get the camera right that much.
Right. And now, all three. Okay, ready, stay. Next lot up.
Anchors away. Anchors away.
No, Dawn, you're still a trustee.
You're still a trustee, though.
Okay.
Can I take one?
Bob. Oh, Bob.
Bob.
Remember now.
Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Cheerio, here I go on my way. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. With a cheer, not a tear, make it gay. Give me a smile I can keep for a while in my heart while I'm away. Till we meet once again, you and I. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Cheerio, here I go on my way. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. With a cheer, not a tear, make it gay. Give me a smile I can keep for a while in my heart while I'm away. Till we meet once again, you and I. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Hitler? If you think we're on the run, we are the boys who will stop your little game. We are the boys who will make you think again. So who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Hitler? If you think old England's done. Mr. Brown goes off to town on the M21, but he comes home each evening and he's ready with his gun. So who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Hitler? If you think old England's done. Mother dear, I'm writing you from somewhere in France, hoping this finds you well. Sergeant says I'm doing fine, soldier and a half. Here's a little song we sing and it will make you laugh. We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line. Have you any dirty washing, mother dear? We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line, 'cause the washing day is here. Whether the weather may be wet or fine, you'll just rub along without a care. We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line, if the Siegfried line's still there. It's a long way to Tipperary, it's a long way to go. It's a long way to Tipperary, to the sweetest girl I know. Goodbye, Piccadilly, farewell, Leicester Square. It's a long, long way to Tipperary, but my heart's right there. Pack up your troubles in your own kit bag and smile, smile, smile. While you've got Lucifer to light your fag, smile, boys, that's the style. What's the use of worrying? It never was worthwhile. So pack up your troubles in your own kit bag and smile, smile, smile. Pack up your troubles in your own kit bag and smile, smile. gentle and new. With us about, you won't feel blue. So meet the gang, 'cause the boys are here. The boys to entertain you. When all the skies are grey and it's a rainy day, think of the birdies in spring. When you're up to your neck in hot water, be like the kettle and sing. Tell that umbrella man he's just an also-ran. Think of a kid on a swing. When you're up to your neck in hot water, be like the kettle and sing. You'll find that life's always got a funny side. So come over on the sunny side and wear a great big smile. It makes your life worthwhile. You'll have the world on a string when you're up to your neck in hot water. Be like the kettle and sing. You'll find that life's always got a funny side. So come over on the sunny side and wear a great big smile. It makes your life worthwhile. You'll have the world on a string when you're up to your neck in hot water. Be like the kettle and sing. Be like the kettle and sing. Kiss me goodnight, Sergeant Major. Tuck me in my little wooden bed. We all love you, Sergeant Major. When we hear you bawling, show a leg. Don't forget to wake me in the morning. Bring me round a nice hot cup of tea. Kiss me goodnight, Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major, be a mother to me. On the farm, every Friday. On the farm, it's rabbit pie day. Every Friday that ever comes along, I get up early and sing this little song. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run.
Debbie, this is recording.
Oh, right.
And from Bob, and said, can you walk around
Yeah.
and have a record of all your friends that are here?
Oh, right, okay.
Okay, so you look at it.
Yeah.
As
Oh, right.
you walk around slowly, it's all
Yeah.
recording.
Okay, so I'll start off
walk
with
around.
Mal and Jeff, yeah. Can I put that down? You okay with that? Yeah, thank you. Right, this is recording. Can you say something to me about Dad?
I'd love to say something about Dad. Brings back memories of sitting in our house in Surbiton with you and your mum and Dad, and kids all running around enjoying themselves. Lovely sunny day, and we ran out of wine, so we had to do the whole thing straight out of demijohns.
Never forgotten that. That's absolutely
And I've got some
right.
pictures of Peter and Amy to prove it.
Yeah.
We were completely out of control.
Absolutely.
And I would like to say something.
Yes, yes, Jeff.
You all used to prop me in the belly and said you're putting on weight.
Yeah, he did always so. Yeah. Janet, you're going to say, no, you're not going to, I'll just say, and this is Janet, one of our neighbours, who has lived next door to us over 30 years. And this is Dave, who is a friend of Stuart's, but also known Dad for about 20 years, I would say. Yes, yeah. And this is a chap called Ian Cavill, who Dad's known for 30 years, I would say.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention, please? Can we turn the music down a little bit?
Music.
Debbie.
For those that don't know, there is a connection. It's been mentioned, and it was in the order of service about the Queen's Regiment and the connection to the Navy. In 1794, we served with the fleet as Marines, and the Queen's Regiment is England's oldest regiment, second of foot, and we're the only regiment in the British Army that when we give the loyal toast, we give it sitting down, just as the Navy do when they're on ships. So whenever you're ready, if you could charge your glasses, make sure you've got a glass to hand. Firstly, I'm going to toast Ernie. And then if you're not sitting down, don't worry. But because we can... The Queen.
The Queen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, right. And we've got a group of Queensmen here as well. I'm going to walk round. This is great, Bob. Yeah. It's Keith and Bob. And we've got Becky. And we've got Julie. Montague. And we've got Roy. And we've got Dawn. And Frank. And Paul. And our marvellous bugler, Peter. And we've got friends and relatives of the family here and here. And we've got gentlemen here from HMS Ganges Association. And here I've got friends from Kent that have known my dad for about 18 years, I would say. Paul and Colette. Let's go down here. And these people here are relatives of mine. This is Tony, one of the guys, and my cousin Robert. Where are the girls? They're getting food upstairs, aren't they? And this is a gentleman who's been a friend of my dad's for 30 years or more. And this is my son Stuart. And these are friends that have known my dad for about 30 years. Well, not that long. That's right. Stick this round here. Yeah. Thank you for coming today. And these are friends of ours from the Westfield Club that we've known my dad for a long time. Gary in particular will remember my dad. 30 years. Yeah, all right. Right, I think that's it. Oh, this is my lovely daughter-in-law Claire, who helped me with what it's going to turn out like. And this is our professional photographer, who's taken photographs for us and always attends functions. Oh, and this is my cousin Rachel. Yeah, that's right. Who's come all the way from Dorset to pay her respects to my dad. Oh, and this is my cousin Penny, who's also come all the way from Dorset to pay respects to Dad. Right, there we are, Bob. Thank you.
We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling. blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know what.